Hello everyone and welcome back to our episode of Showcase on Elden Ring. Alright, today is the review day. Don't quite have the review build yet, but it's something close enough that I can get those numbers on. Now, I was going to do whatever that shield with the cannon with it in, or that attack, whatever it is, but then I discovered this, the Urumi. This weapon is made of an extremely thin, flexible blades of metal is wielded like a whip by his knightfolk warriors. Though in essence a whip with a cutting edge can also be used as a spear to pierce foes. That already sounds a bit weird, but what I discovered is this weapon has arguably the longest reach in this game. Mind you, I haven't tested every weapon, but this might be contender for longest reach. It even now beats all spears, including the extra long spears. Well, without becoming a projectile, that is. So, going on to physical stats, we can see that, well, it has a respectable amount of physical damage. And the bonus damage, it's alright. It's okay. Go on the scaling, you see it scales very little on strength and mainly on dexterity. It's not bad. In order to wield it, though, you need 10 strength and 19 dexterity, which is a fair amount upfront cost. So yeah, you need a dex build in order to get to use this properly. At least without infusing with other different stances. Alright, other than that, we can see that the guard ability is basically non-existent. It has no additional effects, which is a bit of an unfortunate thing. I kind of expected something like this to have some kind of bleed effect natively. And it has no real special ability. It's the kick. Good old kicking, which we can call no ability at all. So for real-world inspiration, I don't know, a flexible belt blade from obscure Jackie Chan film?
Crap, cat man. What a piece of crap.
All jokes aside, this weapon is a real thing. I believe it's pronounced Urumi, but I may be wrong, is a Eastern Indian weapon. Although calling it a weapon is a bit of a stretch. It's very old. Possibly older than most terms of weaponry. Though they use it mainly for, I believe, ceremonial use. It's more of an interpreted exercise dance thing. I may be completely wrong on that. There isn't a whole lot of information that could actually glean from all that. But yes, it is a real thing. Use it to attack people? Maybe in some interpretations, but not many. But no matter. Let's go on some animations. Now, using the whip in Dark Souls, well, this sort of carries over for the most part. You've got a nice large swathing area, though you have a spring action at the end of every attack. So it comes with the pro of you hit a large area, though you leave yourself open for half a second every time. And now we got the power attack, which is an even wider area, hitting large swaths of land in front of you. You can easily hold off many opponents and strike them all at once with this weapon. Crouching, you can see quite a bit of reach on that. It's not the attack I think that's longest reach though. But still, the crouch attack has incredible reach to it. In terms of getting distance, a bit tricky, but hitting a fence here, you can see it's roughly 2 character lengths, which obscures that sounds. It's the only constant in this world, is our character's length. Height, I guess. And we can see the power attack crouching does not exist. Alright. Moving on to next, we got the quick step attack. This gives a good nice swath of the whip directly in front of you and to your right. The power attack version, of course, does not exist, as usual. The only question is, in Dark Souls universe, will the whips, or the Elden Ring universe, will whips actually be better than Dark Souls? We'll see. So the spring attack sees a quick, and I guess what other word can I use it? Whipping, whapping. And we see the power attack does exist here. It's a nice spring action to it. But let's see, what else? I guess we got the jumping attack, which seems a little awkward. So the normal attack, it's another whip, I guess. It hits a large, weird area, but the power attack is fairly useless. You don't even get the attack out by the time you hit the ground. We can call that a jumping attack. Alright, now you got the rolling attack, which you can see is a nice rapid whip. Probably the quickest of all the attacks the whip has to offer. And of course, the power attack does not exist. Alright. Now let's go on to the two-handed version. Really going to be repeating a lot of animations just with two hands now. So you can see the two-handed basic attack, you're attacking directly ahead, at a good length too. Hard to get measurements while I'm doing this alone, but you're roughly hitting 1/2 to 2 character lengths. Power attack, you can see, is an extraordinary, really wide whipping area. You could probably hit 5 people doing that attack if they were all in front of you. Alright, next we have the crouching. With the crouch, it's again, nice light, wide area. And you're sort of using it one-handed if you see. You're just catching with both hands. God, that'd be a good way to lose fingers using this weapon. Power attack wise, you didn't see it didn't exist, and now we're on to quick step, and it's basically the same thing, although you're coiling the whip with your hands. It was weird. Just a quick step backward attack, power attack didn't exist. Now we're on to rolling. Again, also the fastest attack, whether two-handed or one-handed, for all the whip's animations. Next, see, the power attack version for the rolling does not exist. Let's see, what other animations we have? I guess the sprinting attack. As you can see, it's a nice, good spring action, very quick, and very most directly forward. And you can see also the power attack, which also exists here. Again, you're coiling the blade around your finger before you whip it. Good way to lose fingers, if this is how it's actually used in life. Now we're on to the jumping attack, which is really identical to the single-handed attacks, whether it be power or single-handed. So pretty good. And then we got of course, the kick. It has no real ability, so they put kick by a placeholder, I guess. Now, I didn't show you the longest reaching attack yet. For if you were to take it and charge your power attack, you would get the full length of this weapon. There's a normal power attack, but if you were to charge it, boom. That's an amazing length. That is quite a reach to that. I would dare say it's 2.5 to almost, like, a little bit more than 2.5 character lengths. Of course, trying to get the hitbox right and trying to aim it is a little difficult at a fence to get a measurement. But when it's done right, it's quite a long reach, and I'll prove that. Alright. Now, in terms of using it, there is a downside. Sure, you get that reach, but it's heavily telegraphed. Players will only hit by it once. Anyway, let's go on to some horse animations. Using a horse and a whip, it seems like a weird thing to do, but we're going to do it anyway. So you can see you got that nice large area. It's pretty much very far away from your horse. Not so much in front of you, it's heavily to your sides. So you make sure you got to be on the broad side attacking. And here we got the power attack, which even strikes behind you. So that could be used, at least on the right side, it strikes fairly behind you. So that's neat. And of course you could charge it, and I don't think you can drag this weapon, but I'll try. We'll see. So neat nonetheless. Okay, where to find this? Now if you go to the CI Manor, and you're going through pretty much halfway through it, and you're on the ramparts, before you go up the elevator to the higher yard, you can jump off here. I went backwards to the place, but it's pretty hard to miss. That gap there between behind all those dudes, I call them all hands, whatever they're called. They're hiding it, it's just right there. Fairly easy to get to. Alright, next I'll show you on the map. So here I'm in the CI Manor, and it's pretty much the farthest right corner you can get to. But you must drop down from there to the ramparts. That's in the CI Manor. I think I pronounced that right. Too many names to pronounce. Alright, next. Let's go some measurement testing here. So these enemies are some of the easiest ones to strike because they don't move too much, though they do meander away slightly. So damage, I'm not really testing for damage, I'm testing for that amazing reach. So you can see I'm roughly hitting 2.5 character lengths. That's pretty damn good. Now, to further cement this, I'll take a pike, and we'll do the exact same thing. This is the longest spear, with the longest hitbox to my knowledge, without becoming a projectile. So, this is basically its main competition, if I not get poisoned here. So you can see, not really hitting it, roughly at the same length too. Nope, there we go, there's one hit. We'll try hanging around the 2.5 character point, right about here. Just falling short. So it's a bit always tricky to measure these things, especially when I'm doing it alone. But you can see that the whip is either matching or slightly going further. I believe it's further than the pike itself. And I believe this is the longest weapon you can wield without it becoming a projectile, at least what was once thought. So I believe the whip is possibly the greatest reach on any weapon. Okay, enough of that. Let's test some breaking here. Some stance breaking. So normal attacks, doesn't really do a whole lot. Took multiple hits. 4 hits in order to get through the basic shield. That's not exactly preferable. We do power attack. You actually hit the opponent twice if you're crafty about it. You can see you can get through roughly 2 to 3 hits. Two-handed with the whip, normal attacks. We can see, it's 3 attacks. That's acceptable. That's alright. Alright, now we can just do the two-handed power attack, which you get close, it still takes 3 hits. And of course, since this is Elden Ring, let's try the jumping attack, since sometimes it's more effective. And to be honest, this time, not so much. I'm using two-handed normal attacks, and it's if I could jump straight and attack straight. It takes anywhere from 3 to 4 hits, roughly. So yeah. And of course, one more time, because really this comes with a built-in method, just kick the damn shield. Just kick it. So yeah, that's the best way to get through shields. Not all shields, but plenty of them. Now it should be noted, this is a whip. It lacks something that other weapons take advantage of. There is no backstabbing. You cannot backstab with a whip. It makes sense. Even with this weapon, it makes sense. Alright, let's do some early performance here. So this is my first attempt to use it horseback. And it's not bad. I actually like this. Is it my go-to weapon on horseback? No, but you know what? I would kind of like this earlier in the game, if I had known about it. Using a sword's a bit limiting. Using a greatsword is just as limiting. And I used a spear, but the spears are awkward to wield on horseback. But this whip feels alright. I wouldn't say it's the best range to it, it's a little awkward to aim, but it works. Especially when you're, driving by and hitting opponents. It's a little awkward at first, but you can hit a lot of dudes very easily. And some of them don't like to keep you at range, you can easily get in that range. That said, there is a little bit of timing. You gotta carefully time it, but you can see that I'm striking opponents behind me when they're trying to swath around me. So that's damn helpful like that, especially in the backswing, where you can easily get out of most attacks your opponent's trying to land you into. Alright. That's it using on, at least, on horseback. Although, cockiness got the better of me, and he did bury his blade in my chest. That said, the weapon is good to use on ground too. And that's what we're going to do, segue into the ground portion. The whip demands really one thing from you, keeping your opponents at the medium range. Not close, not far. So right about there, that's the perfect range that the whip wants to attack your opponents. Not too close, not too far. You can easily transition between opponents very easily, but you can see there's that snap. The enemy was able to get into my attack range and jab me because of the snap action. Alright, let's go on to some upgrades. Here you see my build I got on the right. You can see basically almost a fall review build, but close enough. So this is the standard build. It's pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Then we got some other builds here. Now, in terms of using other builds, I'll be using the standard upgrade. I don't need to label these because you can see on the left side which one I'm viewing. And you can see that the standard build back there had an S for scaling and dex. That's pretty damn good, and it even surpassed the base damage. Now a lot of these, the damage kind of goes all over the place a little bit, and they go all divided. But the strongest 2 builds are either the magic or the flame arc one. That and the frost. Those are the highest AR rating. Roughly calculated a little bit more than 600, around the 610 AR. Which on the strongest? Well, it really comes down to what opponent you're fighting. Everyone has different resistance to different things. That said, for opponents, I don't have a whole lot of data on my opponents yet, so I'm still discovering which opponents are the best to test these weapons on. So, in terms of who I'll be fighting a troll from the mountaintop of the giants, as, to my knowledge, the only resistance he has is to blunt weapons, to bludgeoning. to my knowledge, as I tested a couple things on them. And the casual enemy ally fighting is the knights and various troops from the Halleck tree, the final area. They do have that mixed bag of defense and defense values. But, yeah. So, on this build here, you can see the bleed damage. I do say it's a bit of a missed opportunity. I think this weapon innately should have bleed damage built in. So I think I'm going to throw that in the cons, because that's an expectation when using a blade as a whip. You kind of think you get hit by it, you're going to bleed a lot. It's like a deep cutting weapon if you were hit by such a thing. That said, if you're wearing armor, really a blade whip wouldn't do anything to you, other than maybe startle you. So yes, and that's all the different pictures of the builds. You can get the rough damage values there. Alright, using this on a giant, or sorry, it's not a giant, it's a troll here. Well, you can see it does plenty of damage. Is it endgame? That's arguable. Against such a large opponent, this is not really the best weapon. It lacks the DPS. This is a crowd control weapon. That's its bread and butter. But against such a large opponent, it can be used. Is it preferable? No, but it's perfectly fine. Wouldn't say it's the best weapon use, in such scenarios, but it's acceptable. But no matter, it can kill the enemies, just not rapidly. Although against smaller targets, you'll fare far better, even quick ones, if you time it right. Speaking of which, let's go to just that. So, as I mentioned, I'm at the Halleck tree, and using against the knights here, these guys are fairly high in level. And you can see I can cut through them in 3 hits. And that's the armored ones. So as long as you time your strikes right and just don't flail about like crazy, you'll hit your opponents without too much trouble. And you can see there, again, I didn't time it right. That snappiness does come to bite me in the ass. So I guess you do have to be aware of the weapon and its limitations and its timing. But in terms of using the weapon in such a situation like this is almost perfect. I like using this. In Dark Souls 3, I consider the entire category of whips to be thrown in the trash. This weapon though, and this first whip I use in Elden Ring, I like it. It's good, it's powerful, it's what whips always should have been in freaking Dark Souls 3. But this is not Dark Souls 3. This is Elden Ring, and everything has been improved. Just about everything, anyway. So overall my impression is, I'm happy with it. Especially those nice long-reaching attacks. Generally striking opponents before they even get a chance to get in, combat range. Most of the time, anyway. But enough of that. Let's go on to pros and cons. Alright, time for some pros and cons. Haven't done this in a bit. Okay, for the Urumi, as I'll pronounce it. The pros, you got a weapon with a very large, wide attack area. Probably the most square coverage for a physical weapon without becoming a projectile or using any special abilities. And also, it arguably has the longest reach in this game for a physical weapon. Alright. And it has excellent scaling off dexterity, which is pretty darn good. Alright, and I think that's good for pros. On cons, it suffers from the whip animations, which has that spring action, which a half-second delay can be problematic, especially in PvP. Innately expects to have bleed damage and it doesn't. I'm still quite disappointed by that. Alright, and I don't think there's any significant other cons. I guess it requires a high dexterity to wield, but that's really for the build. So that's not too much of a con. Alright, let's go on to the score. Now if you're new to this, my score is ranked from basically letters, from S to F. Starting us off with some damage, I'm going to give that a B-. Now it does have plenty of damage and hits a wide area, but however this weapon lacks DPS to maintain that and get the higher end damage values. Reach, I'm going to give that a solid A. It's the longest reach without becoming a projectile. Possibly. Animation, I'm going to give that a B+. There's the only whip to actually use that blade animation, so it already puts itself above the other whips. At least I believe so. I'm not sure if the others have unique animations, I'll find out soon enough. Scaling, I'm going to give that an A. With standard upgrade, you get that S scaling for dexterity, that is excellent. Miscellaneous, though, I'm going to give that a C. With no real skill, as the kick as a placeholder, and really no bleed damage, it's going to keep biting in the ass. But still, all in all, I give the Urumi a solid B. It's a good weapon. An interesting weapon, and probably would be an interesting playthrough if you chose to use it. So yeah, pretty damn neato if I do say so myself. So, all in all, the Urumi is a very interesting weapon. The best weapon in the game? No, but interesting is always nice too. Now, in terms of using it in Endgame and New Game Plus, I'm not sure of its viability. In PvP, it's probably interesting and neat to wield. But is it the best weapon? Probably not, because it's a pretty predictable moveset. And really, if you're using a shield, it becomes almost useless. Not to mention, not sure, can it seem to be parried? That's something I'll need help with, but no matter. That's been Showcase for today. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you guys next time. Take care out there.